And yeah, we're recording. Holy crap, Jason.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
It's a surprise every time you manage
Yeah.
to push the button.
Oh, wow. I got stage fright all of a sudden now. We've been backstage all this time talking. And now I press the
Yes.
button. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's going to be looking at us. By the
Mhm.
way, hello, people of the future. This is a pre record. This is actually our second attempt at this episode. Our first attempt was this past Monday. Now, today is Thursday, January the 16th, where we meet again to try this episode again.
We do. Yes, we do. And
Yes.
I'll take all the blame for this because I thought we could do better. The Monday
Yeah.
show was fine and Donnie was okay with it, but I'm like,
I was
no,
okay with it.
we can do better.
Yeah.
We can do better because this is a very serious topic that we're about to address. And I thought it deserved a better explanation. I thought we went a little wild on it, meaning I think we need to narrow it down. So I hope that when we're done with this, you will understand a lot more things far more
Right.
clearly than perhaps is even being discussed right now.
Yes. And of course, even though it's been a while, like a few days, the LA fires is still very fresh on everyone's minds because how can it not?
Mhm.
It is probably one of the worst disasters we've seen in that part of the country in a while.
It's going to end
Not
up being
since,
it'll probably end up
yeah,
being one of the most, if not the most expensive disasters in American history.
right. It's up there. It's
Yep.
up there, right? Um, so yeah, and there's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people playing the blame game. And yeah, you can't talk about these events without bringing up politics because at the end of the day, a lot of the severity of this disaster was
Yep.
due to a lot of these failed policies that this one party that's been running California for decades now have
Hmm.
implemented.
Yeah.
And
Even when Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's ostensibly supposed to be a Republican, was running, it was still basically more of the same.
yeah,
Very, very liberal. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So so yeah, so a lot of people, I guess, on the right or people who are more religious, because the
mhm,
reason why I wanted to have you on, Jason, is because not only are you more leaning towards the right in your
mhm,
political spectrum, but you're also of the religious mindset,
I am.
right? You're very versed in Christian theology.
I try.
So I would say so the part of the people who we want to speak to with this episode are those who want to look at these events and compare them to the events of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah. Um, and
So,
what gets tied into that a lot is this video that I think you're going to show from the Golden Globes, which is literally the night before the fires
yeah,
erupt. The Golden Globes happen, and then there's this scene where the comedianess, comedianite. Anyway, she's doing the hosting thing, and she's doing the stuff. And y'all probably all seen the video, but Donnie, let's go ahead and throw it up there for good measure.
here we go.
Happen in the first half, and the acceptance speeches have been on fire. Who got shouted out the most? Let's look at the numbers. All right, cast and crew are leading the way with 11 mentions. Moms
And they should be.
are holding strong with 3 shout outs. God, creator of the universe, 0 mentions. And Mario Lopez, host of Access Hollywood, 1. All right. No surprise in this godless town. The room
All
has
right.
been buzzing, and there's been a lot.
Right.
So this is the video that a lot of people post and said, see, this happens just before. And so
Mhm.
this is clearly God's judgment on LA. I would like to point out 2 things. One, it's not, God is not the joke, is not
Mhm.
the punchline in that. It's that Hollywood is LA, again, which is
Yeah,
LA,
it's a
is
godless
a
town.
godless town.
Yeah.
Now, so
Actually,
that's really the
when I
joke.
first saw that, I was thinking like at first I was like, oh, she's making fun of God. That's messed up. But then the more I watched it, I'm like, no, she's actually making fun of everyone in that room for being godless, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's like the punchline is the people is what is that the people aren't. It's like, this is the creator of the universe. Now again, do I think she really thinks God's the creator of the universe? No. And is there a little bit of a backhand there? Probably. All I'm saying is, if God was going to nuke LA because of something like this, he would have done it a long time ago. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? He had that, what's his name, Sam Smith, I think. He did that song that it was forced on everyone's TikTok feeds, where where it's just this disgusting thing. Everyone was wearing devil horns. It was just nuts.
Oh yeah. Or
Yeah.
Travis Scott.
Yeah, it's like, God has had plenty of opportunities to say, okay, see, this public thing happened. Now I'm just gonna take care of this. He's had plenty of opportunities to do this. I would like to compare and contrast what happened here with Sodom and Gomorrah very, very quickly, but to do that, we need to at least address what Sodom and Gomorrah was. So Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plains, they were these very powerful cities during the time of Abraham. Lot actually goes to live there. Like his nephew, they were together at first.
This is in Genesis, right?
This is in Genesis, yeah. So during Abraham's time, they separated because the herds had grown so large that they couldn't really coexist. So Lot went towards the cities. There's a lot of similarity between Sodom and Gomorrah and
both like
LA.
economic and cultural hubs for both very powerful cities, very influential.
Very powerful. Yeah. And again, the moral rot and decay is very, very similar. But here's the difference. God told Abraham what he was going to do. That's talking to the prophet. There's sort of a biblical principle that before God actually punishes, like truly he's like, I'm going to rain down some stuff. He first tells the prophet it's going to happen. Usually there's the intent to give the city a chance to repent, right? I like in Jonah, which is literally the story of what actually is going on with Abraham. Abraham's like, hey, if you find 10 righteous people, will you spare the city? Because he's trying to save the lives of the people there. And God's like, sure. There wasn't, which is why he gets Lot and his daughters out. Again, whole story. But the second point is, God then usually does something that is completely and totally him. You can't really blame it on something else. There is no, well, it's a natural. When God does a natural disaster sort of looking thing, it's pretty clear it's him. It's not something else. But there is, so I'm not a fan of people pointing out, oh, this is Sodom and Gomorrah and this is some sort of righteous judgment on them. Not exactly. But it's not entirely wrong either. It's just a little bit different. There is another way that God judges cities. And usually the whole call to repentance is actually tied into the judgment itself, right? And that is, he takes his hand of protection away. And what then happens is people or nations or cities suffer the consequence of their decisions. So it's not necessarily that God's like, okay, I'm going to do something that, like hurricanes making right-hand turns and just plowing through something. Okay, maybe. But usually it's God like, here's something that's very clearly my hand. There's dates involved. Prophets are involved, the whole 9 yards. The other time is when he just says, I'm going to let you deal with the consequences of your actions. And so inherent within there is a call back to him. That's why I do think that video is important, because God never wastes anything. This is a call to say, hey, y'all need to shape up, because it's not about LA. It's about all of us. In many ways, California is just a few years ahead of everybody else in a lot of ways. And what we are seeing here is God just said, okay, I'm going to allow, like what Joe Rogan said, I think a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When he said that he had been talking to a firefighter, they said it's going to take the right wind and the right fire, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. He just said, okay, I'm going to take my hand off. So there will be the right fire at the right time. And what it's done is it's shown. Everyone wants to point to our buddy Gavin Newsom, and they should, but you're missing the point if you only do that. Everyone's pointing to the other leadership, and they should be, but but also you're missing the point if you do that. to understand why this is important and why this event really should be a wake-up call for everyone, not just California, we kind of need to talk about something that seems completely disconnected, but it's not, I assure you.
Right.
A reoccurring theme on Donnie's channel right here is how much he hates wokeness, right?
How much we hate wokeness.
Yeah, but this is your
Yeah.
channel, and you bring it
Yeah.
up a lot because you do it when I'm not on the show.
Well,
You have conversations about.
I went through a bit of a journey because in the beginning, I would actually argue with some of my more conservative friends.
Mhm.
This was a few years ago. This was like right when, about like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
I would get into arguments with some of my conservative friends who, when woke was coming out, they were all against it. And I was actually arguing for it. I wasn't like so woke, but I didn't see the reason why they had to get mad that all of a sudden there's like a non-white person in the lead of like a movie or a story. Right? I'm like, why are your panties in a bunch? Because I grew up with a lot of instances where they would have like characters that were Asian and they would replace them with white actors.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a bit of a kick in the balls because it's like, oh, I guess we're not marketable. All right. So you know those examples, right?
Oh, yeah. Genghis
Dragon
Khan,
Ball movie.
Dragon Ball
The movie
which
21. That movie about those blackjack hustlers who, in the true story, they're all like Asian American.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just replaced them with a bunch of white dudes.
Yep. Gandhi, the actor who played Gandhi, was a white dude.
He was Ben Kingsley has half Indian.
Yeah.
I could think of what's a worse example than that? Little Buddha.
Oh yeah.
Where they had Keanu Reeves playing
Siddhartha Gautama. Yeah.
But it's okay. I forgive that though because it's Keanu Reeves.
Well, also because there is the argument that could be made that again, for those who don't know, this is the echelons of the caste system in India are about how white you get.
No, it's true. No, that's not just India. That's Asia.
Well, that's Asia too.
Yeah,
but all of Asia. But what I'm saying is very specifically in Hindu society, the lighter you are, the higher up in the caste. So there's an argument to be made that actually his whiteness may be.
Oh, you know who are real sticklers for that? Actually, it's like Southeast Asians, like Thai and like Vietnamese people.
Oh,
they're real sticklers for that.
Yes, they are.
Oh yeah.
But that's beside the point. So
anyway,
again, to your point, yes, there were a number of Asian characters clearly Asian characters who were played by white people, which makes very little to no sense. But so that starts changing, and so at first you're sort of like, this isn't a bad thing. We're fine with it. But then what happened? What changed, Donald?
Well, again, I was getting real sick of the white savior tropes.
Yeah.
The whitewashing tropes. So it was starting to get cool that you were seeing some, they're actually being played by the race actor, right? I see more Asian actors. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But then they started getting overboard with it. It started going ridiculous. And then what they started doing was they started doing the opposite.
Yeah.
They would take characters that were traditionally white, that you accepted were white, and they would just race swap them. And then they would gender swap. And then they would gay swap. And like, why are you swapping all these characters? And it was done to a point where it was like for no reason at all. Like it didn't add to the story. So what it was essentially doing was it was belying a clear agenda.
Yeah.
And then as George Floyd happened, and then the BLM happened, the woke movement started gaining steam. And then it became really just a whole movement about just dunking on white people, just shitting on white people. And I'm like, hey, that's not cool. And then I start seeing people just outright saying, I hate straight white men.
Yeah.
Or I hate white people, or white people are evil because we're here to fight racism. But I'm like, but that's just like the most outrageously racist thing that you said. And now you're claiming to be a champion against racism. Meanwhile, all you're doing is just justifying being racist towards white people, all in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which, the thing that bothered me that a lot of people don't talk about. It's like, okay, you're having so many gay and trans people now who are at the forefront of a lot of the representation in pop culture. Fine, right? Good.
Right.
Actually, good. You know, I'm okay with that. Last time I played Dungeons and Dragons, I made him a gay guy. He was a gay fighter. He wasn't like a queen gay. He was like a big jack dude who like looked mean. But then when he would get into town after the adventures, he would like to go to bathhouses. That was like the backstory I made for him.
Okay.
I just thought it was
a bear.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting. That's all. Yeah. I didn't have any weird fantasy I want to play out. I was actually inspired by the main antagonist in Orange is the New Black. He was like this really evil prison guard who was like this big butch guy, but he was gay.
Yeah.
So he was immune to all of the temptations that the female inmates would throw at him. I thought he was a cool character. Anyway, here's the thing that bothers me about all that. It's not the fact that gay people are getting shine. It's that they represent what percent of our population realistically? Not even 5%?
Not even.
White people represent what percent of our this country's population? I'd say a solid 70%.
It depends on how you rate it, but yeah, between 50 and 70, all things considered.
I would have been a lot cooler with it if it was more accurate to the actual demographics, right?
Right.
But no, they just have to we have to get rid of white people. White people are bad. They're the oppressors. And then it became all about this power play, critical race theory, the power dynamics, right? And then everything just became about subverting this, subverting that. And then all of that bullshit started to bleed into my video games, which, okay, I've been a hardcore gamer all of my life.
Yeah.
No matter what bullshit was going on in the world, to me, I always had the purity that was video games.
Right.
And when I mean purity, I mean that every video game that I got into, its sole purpose was to be fun, be
entertain
hype.
You. Yeah.
You get sucked into the lore to entertain you, to excite you. But then they started cramming all this agenda in there. None of it was adding to the video game. It was actively making the game worse.
Yeah.
And then people are like, what the fuck is going on? These games start tanking. Some of these beloved game developers like BioWare and Ubisoft start tanking.
Because they were making crap
sucking
games.
the fun out of video games like a fucking vampire. Let me give you a good example. You ready? I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but this is the wokest game that came out last year. It was called Dustborn.
Yeah, I heard about it. Oh, I was aware.
Have you seen the clips?
I've not seen the clips. I was just aware of it.
Hold on. This is so in Dustborn. This game was made. It was paid for by like some like I forgot like Netherlands or whatever Norway, right? It was they gave a grant to this because a lot of these European countries are woke now.
Oh yeah.
So they dropped this huge grant on this video game developer, and it was so agenda driven that it was nauseating.
Yeah.
Here is a clip from the game where basically you play these. It's like dystopian American future where America is taken over by those evil conservatives, those fascists, and you play this rock band rebels who are like secretly touring like traveling across the country road trip style.
Yeah.
And you're on a mission to liberate minds. And so this is their song, and it's like the most racist song, and these people don't even fucking realize it. It's mind blowing.
We're the aliens.
That's infected our video games.
Yeah.
We walk among you.
It's so cringe.
So yeah, and that is so, and just even the singing's bad.
She's talking about, the establishment, the evil whiteys. Your kind won't last. What do you think she's referring to?
Uh-huh.
And like one guy's like a fat gay Native American dude.
Yeah.
the leader's like this black girl. Yeah, there's a white guy in there, but he's gay because you can't have a straight white guy because they're all evil.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, those woke retards, they ruined my beloved video games because they had to jam their fucking agenda, right? That agenda that's been in all this shit now, that's been in politics, and California is the capital of that.
Yeah.
It is the generator of that. That's where it all springs from, right? That's where all that thought, all the leaders of the movement, that's where all centered. West Coast, Portland, Seattle, and mostly
LA,
California,
Silicon Valley.
And you have the movers, leaders, and shakers, right? The people on the left who have essentially infiltrated and pretty much taken over the Democratic Party. And they start prioritizing all that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit into all their policies and focus all their agenda on it. Meanwhile, they forget to fill their reservoirs, don't they?
Yes. But before we get to that point, because it's a great point, and it's very much where we're going, we need to push back a little bit on it coming from LA, because you're not wrong.
Right.
But that's just where it comes from in America.
Well, Hollywood's the biggest,
right, yeah,
purveyor of that.
Purveyor
one
of
of the biggest. Yeah, one of the biggest.
But it's not necessarily, the driving force is not necessarily in LA. That's simply, how do I think about it? It's more like the delivery system. Because in the 60s, there's a ton of people, y'all can go listen to basically any anti-communist, they'll tell you all of this. In the 60s, the reason critical theory arose was because the communists sort of realized, okay, America has too powerful a middle class for the worker rebellion, right? So they needed to find another way. And so they were looking for alternative pathways for this, and they discovered and figured out that you could rework race and class. And so they just switched up. And so instead of making it about class, they made it about race.
Yeah.
And they've been working on this for a long time. Again, the Yuri Bezmenov interview, if I'm getting his name right, I'm terrible with names. We flat out said, look, this is an operation that we're doing. Now, we outlasted the USSR, true. China's still there. They're still pushing this. And this is where a lot of this stuff is coming from, is China and then BlackRock and Vanguard and all these others, they're all putting money in to these things. Everyone's talking about TikTok.
Instead of like traditional Marxism, which was, economic, the new Marxism is cultural, right?
Correct.
Woke is essentially cultural Marxism.
Correct. And it's cultural Marxism hiding as morality is really the way to look at it.
That's how the original Marxists did it with economics.
Which, exactly. That's how they did it. I mean, the Maoist struggle sessions, watch those. That's what's happening on the left. Wokeism is nothing more and nothing less than cultural Marxism retooled, repainted, and shipped to us in a way that we'll buy it. And it's easy to see how it would appeal to liberals and leftists very specifically, because they're already statists, right? Liberals and even neocons, right? Liberals, neocons, these are people of the left. They already believe in giving power to larger institutions, because the idea is if you give the power to the institution can fix and solve all problems. That's the underlying premise of their ideologies. So you come here and you say, hey, here's this. Let's be honest, it's a cheap and easy way to show morality, right?
Right.
It's if there is no truth, there is only power, then it's victim versus oppressor. And by the way, all you got to be to become a victim is just be queer now. I remember that was supposed to
be a non-straight white person.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Non-white, non-straight.
Yeah, it's like if you're it's like, well, hold on, there's no way for a white person. It's like, no, just be gay or be trans or be non-binary. So it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
It was a way to target people to say, okay, we're gonna pull you towards this cultural Marxism, and that's what it is. But it's also aggressive, and this is the thing we need to understand. People are talking about the TikTok ban that's coming. if you understood what TikTok was, you would understand. People are like on the right are saying, no, it's about free speech. TikTok has nothing to do with free speech. It is very specifically Chinese spyware and psychological operation. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with free speech. It is a psychological operation, and it is spyware. The reason China has dumped billions of dollars into sort of these middle companies to push things like Sweet Baby Inc. for your video games, right? Where they have been pushing this DEI agenda and trying to put all of this propaganda into video games and movies and all these other things, is because they know that that what it's designed to do is destroy. It is inherently toxic. Because if they thought for a second that this stuff was good, they wouldn't give it to us. But secondly, they'd have it themselves. Are there any DEI operations in China? No. Is any of this look anything like what we see in China? No. We saw, it does look like stuff we saw with the Maoist Revolution, though, just before they murdered 80 million people. But what wokeness is, it is cultural Marxism retooled and weaponized and brought to us and funded by institutions like China, like, and yeah, Russia to a point, but also specifically Vanguard and BlackRock, because they want to destroy our power as Americans. And they know the only way to do that is internally. Now, I know this is sounding very disconnected. Like, what does video games have to do with this, with the burning of California, and how is that a warning for the rest of us? As I said, California is very much on the forefront of where we go as a country. You want to see where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years? Look at what California is doing in a conversation. Whenever California makes changes to their school books, everybody makes the same changes because they want to be able to sell in California. Yeah. What we are seeing in California is not just because, like I said, yes, let's yell at Gavin Newsom all you want, yell at all the people all you want, because there's plenty of reason and blame to go around. The problem is they didn't walk into this perfectly functioning system and break it, and then broke it. The system was broken a long time ago. This is decades upon decades of liberal neo-Marxist agendas being played out. This is what happens when you have this disconnect from reality playing out. And you get stuff like that video I know a lot of y'all have probably seen. I think Donnie's got it pulled up, the one where the woman from the fire department.
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me get that ready.
Yeah, while you pull that up. Again, you want to talk about a remarkably racist video. It's literally a video saying... It's
so racist. I'm just so like, racist. How do you get away with this?
Well, again, the dustborn thing, like you said, it's clearly racist. It's on its face racist. And Donnie's got this other wonderful video that I know y'all have seen 1,000 times, but it's really important that it gets played here.
Okay.
As I rehydrate.
Hold on. This is like infuriating.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease.
That you want to see someone who responds to your call that looks like you? Are you fucking serious?
Yeah. I mean, so again, 5th generation Texan here. Okay. I can assure you with 100% accuracy, that anyone who said something like that, I want to see someone who looks like me show up at a call or whatever. They are 100% racist.
Could you imagine if that was the same video, but you had a white guy and he was like, well, if I'm in a fire, I want to see someone show up who looks like me. I don't want to see someone who doesn't look like me.
Exactly. That's because I've heard that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I've heard people say that. That's how I know they're racist. This is racism. It's not reverse racism. And of course, the people say, well, no, black people can't be racist. Congratulations. You've bought into cultural Marxism. because that was part of the point. Was no, there's only the oppressor and the oppressed in the class system. Didn't matter what you did, didn't matter who you were. It just mattered that you were in that class versus this class, and that's all there was. Anything you did if you were in the oppressed class was legitimate because you've been oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same mentality. It's just swapping out class for race. Please continue, Donald.
Knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
Yeah, listen, I know your house burned down with your... Our skin color is kind of the same, so you should about that.
He's strong enough to do this. She's strong enough to do this. Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Somebody broke into your house and you want me...
He got himself in the wrong place if I had to break him out of the fire. So she's essentially victim blaming.
Yes.
Because
that's literally her job. Her job as that is your job. That's why it exists, is to pull people out of fires. That's it. Imagine any other scenario where this is happening. You can't. People filmed this. They heard her say this. They edited this video. They gave it to producers who listened to this and watched and said, yep, let's put that on the air. This is from 5 years ago, maybe 6 now, since we're in 2025, because I think it was from 2019. On its face, that is the most, that would be the Babylon Bee. SNL couldn't come up with a skit that ridiculous. You couldn't. To Donnie's point, it's infuriating, but that's the mentality of the people in charge. Like I said, yes, we should blame them, but not exclusively them, because they are simply the byproduct of this system, of this 30-plus-year war.
It goes harkening back to the LA fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to where were their priorities in their governance, right?
Yeah.
Where were their priorities? Because the LA fires, people knew happened on a regular basis, right?
Yep.
But then when you look at these old clips, like the fire chiefs, the interviews with the head of the fire department, who was a lesbian, all they talked about was how proud they were because of the diversity, that there were too many white men.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but if I'm in a house fire and I need rescuing, do you know who I want? What motherfucker I want showing up at my house? This motherfucker. You know who this is, right?
He looks familiar. Is it
Stipe
Cracker
Miocic.
McCrackerson?
He was a former UFC heavyweight champion and also a full-time firefighter. I want that motherfucker showing up if my house were on fire. That dude don't look like me. That dude's Croatian.
Nope. Yeah.
But that's the guy I want showing up. I don't give a fuck if he's Korean.
Yeah. No reasonable person cares what the skin color is. And here's the thing. If you can do the job, I don't care what your sex is. But the question is, can you do the job?
Yeah, that's it.
I want you to throw up, this is a great time to throw up that one cartoon, because this is the argument that's being thrown. Again, we have to remember the woke DEI stuff, it's just the weapon of an ideology. It is both sword and shield.
Which one do you want me to show first? Which cartoon?
Let's do the cartoon one, the one with the guy where
we go.
Yeah. So real quick,
let me just read it real quick. So this is what Jason sent me on X. This is they're making fun of the left essentially, but basically the caption reads, "This was the last cartoon Darren Bell, a left-wing cartoonist, drew before being arrested for possession of 134 videos of child pornography in his personal computer." And in the cartoon, you see California, specifically LA, on fire, and standing in the middle of the map is this guy in a Nazi uniform, with an elephant mask, basically stating, what's he stating? Let me full screen this.
Yeah.
"I blame the blacks, crossed out, DEI, and the gays, crossed out, progressive policies in their fire department."
So we're going to come back to
this guy who drew
Mr.
this
Bells.
was busted for child porn.
Yes.
Like yesterday. No, today, actually. Earlier today.
Yeah. I
actually looked it up. So Can we show the picture of the guy who drew this?
Yeah, please. Please.
The guy on the left, Darren Bell, that motherfucker, that fat piece of shit. And that's him getting a fucking Pulitzer Prize for his cartoon work. This motherfucker got caught. And, actually, I read into the case, what kind of... It was AI-generated child porn. Because he thought that if it's AI-generated, well, I'm not hurting any kids.
Yep.
No, he didn't realize they had recently passed a law that says that if it's AI-generated child porn, it's still illegal.
And here's the problem. If he has the AI stuff, it means he's been viewing the real stuff. And I guarantee you, there's at least one kid. There's at least one kid out there. Who did this
cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Who's basically implying in this cartoon that if you're criticizing the progressive policies and DEI as the start of, or as the not cause or contributing factor for the LA fires, then you are, sir, are a fat Republican Nazi.
Yep. And here's the thing. It isn't a coincidence that this is happening. Let's pull up can you pull up the
other one?
Yeah, the New York Times.
New York Times shows this photo of this book, right? It's a book.
Mm-hmm.
No, not a book. It's an op-ed.
This is an op-ed. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. And the title reads pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime.
And this is not the first time that a major progressive publication has advocated for the decriminalization of pedophilia. Heck, California's actually ostensibly created laws that lead in the direction of decriminalizing it. Now they'll say, oh, that's not what we're really doing. Yeah, you are. That's what you did.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, why does this keep popping up so often? The simple fact of the matter is, as I said, the reason wokeness appealed to people on the left is because it's cheap morality. It's, I put up a flag, I support this, I'm a good person. The reason it doesn't really appeal to people on the actual right, again, there's a reason neocons and progressive Christians have embraced a lot of this ideology. It's cheap. It's very public. Everyone can see it. It's entirely performative. It allows you to be an absolute schmuck and reprobate and someone who probably should be drug out back and put up against a wall. But if you can call yourself a male feminist, then you can really do some terrible things to women. If I support all of these leftist sexual progressive things, great, because you're trying to look good while you're abusing children.
Right.
Now, is it everyone who holds the progressive? No, it's not. But the reason that it's attractive to all of this is because it's a shield and a sword. It's, I support thing, therefore you cannot comment on me. The entire argument that he has here is he's saying, and this should also tell you how racist these people are. When someone on the right says, look, at all of this mismanagement is because you're both systemically and everyone in charge of these things were incompetent. Your focus was on the wrong thing the entire time. You haven't done basic things that it's not like this came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Conservatives have been screaming about this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I remember hearing Rush Limbaugh talk about this when I was a teenager. This is not a new phenomenon. The fact that they've been doing this is not new. People have been warning them for decades. This is not a natural disaster. A natural disaster is something you can't avoid. A tectonic plate shifts.
Going back to Sodom and Gomorrah, that leads to the main difference between Sodom and Gomorrah and the LA fires. Sodom and Gomorrah was just God unleashing, right? This one, God just takes a step back. He's like, you know what? I'll let y'all do your things. And this was clearly a man-made disaster.
Yes. Because a hurricane, tectonic plate shifts, a polar freaking vortex that freezes things that haven't been frozen in over 200 years. Those are natural disasters you can't really do anything about. Don't get me started on the polar vortex. We'll be here all night. because I'm still mad at Abbott for that. But it's not just him. Again, there's some problems here in Texas we need to fix. But the problem is that was a literal natural disaster. We might as well have been hit by 2 hurricanes for that. You have a fire season. And you could, again, to a degree, could this have been entirely avoided? Probably not. But could you have mitigated the vast majority of this? Absolutely.
Well, yeah, maybe if the hydrants were working, you could have.
Yeah. If you had fire, if you had water, if you had a functional fire department, if you had clear cut, if you had done proper forest management, this would not have been as bad. That's
but
it.
None of it happened.
This is a man-made disaster.
Because they were too busy dumping money into the homeless problem to buy them their drug kits, which it didn't fix at all.
If
They're
anything,
still trying to figure out where that money went.
Yeah, because it certainly didn't go to where it was supposed to, and that's the bigger point here.
So when all of this news, right, like when all this news of the LA fires came out, right, I wasn't really paying. I mean, I lived in San Francisco for about 6 months with my brother, but I wasn't really paying attention too much into like California governance or politics. But then after the fires broke out, I started, they started talking about it more, like going into the exact like ugly details about what's been going on there. Then I come to realize that California's annual tax revenue is about $200 billion.
Yeah, it's insane.
Billion with a B a year. That's a bigger GDP than like most countries in the world.
I think it's the 5th largest economy on the planet.
And I'm just like, wait a minute. They make $200 billion a year in tax revenue, and they couldn't even get their fucking fire hydrants to work. Meanwhile, they're all painted in fucking rainbow.
Yeah.
And none of them were working.
None of them were working.
That is that's worse than Nero.
Yeah.
That's worse than Nero.
Yep.
Hence the background.
Hence the background.
Okay, before we go on, can I just talk up a little bit about the Great Fire of Rome?
Actually, I want you to talk about that, but let me make one comment, and then because it's really going to underline your point about Nero.
Right.
Okay. Ideologies come in different levels, meaning of who follow them. We've talked about this in advance. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to this in a little bit more in a second. But the thing about these ideologies is usually the people who genuinely believe them are not the people at the top. The people at the top of these ideologies, these communist ideologies and these leftist ideologies, they don't actually believe it. What they are, though, is corrupt. That's why you can have $200 billion coming in every year.
Yeah, I don't think Gavin Newsom actually personally believes that shit. I think it's just
he doesn't.
It just benefits. It's what suits him.
But we do know he loves himself some Xi Jinping. We do know that because he cleaned up San Francisco for him.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to clean up San Francisco for anybody, but he'll clean it up for his Lord and Master Xi Jinping. But it is about corruption. The corrupt are always the ones who want to rise to the top of power. By the way, of any system, it's always the corrupt that rise to the top because they're the ones willing to do whatever it takes to get that power. So they don't actually believe this stuff, and they're willing to take the money and run and just extract value. Here's where it gets really worse. Okay, Donald, would you please explain the fire of Rome and where the term Rome burned while Nero fiddled?
Yeah, well, we all know the story about Nero, right? Because he is like the most notorious of the Roman Empire emperors, fair or not, right? He's got the worst reputation, right? He was like this picture famous for fiddling while Rome burned, which is we now believe, or scholars now think that was not the case at all. Now, the reason why was because we got this guy here, right?
Yeah. So
there's been some recent works discovered from Tacitus, who was a Roman historian, who actually claimed that in 64 AD, the Great Fire of Rome broke out. Rome, much like LA, was a very densely populated city built up on
Mhm.
these hills, which were susceptible to winds and fire, especially droughts.
Yeah.
Now, in 64 AD, in July 18th, I believe, it started in the merchant district, the merchant quarters, where there would be construction materials, there would be flammable materials. A fire broke out
Mhm.
there. It wound up consuming about 70% of the city. 10 out
Yeah.
of the 14 districts were burned to the ground. Now, at the time of this fire, very much like Karen Bass,
Yeah.
Nero was actually away. He was at Antium, which is about 30 miles away. It was basically the Camp David, their equivalent of
Mhm.
Camp David.
Yeah.
But according to Tacitus, when Nero found out about the fire, he booked it back straight to Rome, right?
Yeah.
He led the effort. He led the firefighting effort. He led the
Mhm.
recovery and the rebuilding effort. And he even opened up a whole bunch of like these public buildings, these, grand public buildings, and used them as a refugee space. He had it all, he was like organizing and leading it. He actually used a lot of his own money to
Yeah.
pay for the efforts, so public money and his own money. And I'm thinking about like what Gavin Newsom has done, and I'm like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking Nero did a better job of, fire recovery than fucking Gavin Newsom did. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing, though. The reason why this whole legend of him playing the fiddle, which was kind of ridiculous because it wasn't even invented by then.
Yeah.
The reason why that whole thing existed was because people were pissed. People were still blaming him because he had started construction on his like imperial palace,
Mhm.
and people had this conspiracy theory because during the time of the fire, there were also reports of looters and arsonists. And they
Yep.
thought that there was a conspiracy theory going around that those people worked for Nero so that he could clear space for his palace, which didn't make any fucking sense because he was the emperor. If he
Could've
wanted
just
land
taken
for
it.
his palace, he could have just fucking taken it,
Yeah.
right?
You really could have.
And the other thing that fueled the conspiracy theory was that in the rebuilding project, he replaced a lot of those the traditional original Roman architecture with
Mhm.
Greek architecture. So
Yeah.
they were kind of thinking like, hey, it was him. So that's where the whole legend appears. Nero, in a ploy to play defense politically, blame the Christians
Yeah.
because they were more fringe, and led this whole campaign, which ultimately turned out to be very politically unpopular. A lot of the Roman citizens weren't cool with that, but he was
Yeah.
still like, he still wound up executing about 979 Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not that bad, Jason McLean. It's still less than 1,000.
Yeah. It's paltry numbers by today's standards.
Yeah. Less than 1,000.
Less than 1,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to a point, Nero, one of history's great villains, literally known to most people as the person essentially responsible, did a better job than Gavin Newsom. And here's where I'll even stand up for it. At least Nero used his own money. You think Gavin Newsom's going to give
Fuck
his
no.
money? No.
Fuck no.
No. He's stealing your money. He's going to steal all of our money through federal tax.
Yo, did you see that shit where he made
reference.
that announcement? He was like, if you want to donate, contact
Yes.
here. And it turns out it was some fucking like
it's Act
donation
Blue.
hotline to like the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And now what they're saying is, oh, no, we'll go ahead and we're going to forgo our 4% fee. Because everything that, by the way, that was the other thing with BLM. All their stuff went through Act Blue. So Act Blue made money off of all of that. So the Democrat Party made money off of BLM. And a lot of people, they're like, no, we're gonna forego our 4% fee. It doesn't say that on the website. People have just said it. So we don't know that it's true at all. I wouldn't count on that being true. But also, you give them all of your information. So now they have your name, your phone number, all of that. They're using
You're
it.
basically paying them for you to give them your information.
Yes. Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It is.
It's corrupt. It's corrupt as shit. I mean, this motherfucker wasn't even nearly as corrupt as that shit, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how is it that we have one of history's great monsters, and you're like, by comparison, he's not that bad.
That's pretty ridiculous. And that's going to be Gavin Newsom's political legacy, I swear. History's going to remember him as the motherfucker who let California burn to the ground. He's going to be our modern day Nero.
One could only hope. Unfortunately, I don't have that much faith. But this is where the ideology thing comes back, and this is what I was talking about. And this is so again. Nero uses his own money. Gavin Newsom isn't. He's going to be. I guarantee you, if we look into his finances, we'll find plenty of instances where he's going to be pulling money off the top. So is everybody else. Everybody else is going to, because, like I said, it's the ideology is a sword and a shield. This is neo-Marxism expressing itself in multiple ways, and the problem is societies cannot move forward. They cannot sustain themselves unless people actually believe in the society and actually try to build. There's a phrase that's thrown around a lot, and I like it. So, who are men? Society only prospers when men plant trees in whose shade they will not sit. That means you actually have to care about the people. Can we let's bring up the cartoon one more time from the pedophile.
This one?
No, the cartoon. Sorry, that one. This piece of absolute dog shit.
This piece of dog shit.
That one. Yeah. His argument is they're complaining about the failures, and so we're just going to say it's about black people and homosexuals. They're missing the argument. And here's the thing. He's not stupid enough to miss the argument. He chooses to ignore the argument. The argument everyone's having is it doesn't care. We don't care if the people involved are gay or straight or female or black or anything like that. Your DEI hiring process was designed to bring in people who were not qualified and put them there because you care about their sex. Yeah. You care about their looks. You care what's between their legs. You care about who they screw.
I remember the election when Trump won, right? Mm-hmm. And then there were all these videos. The second time, the recent one.
Yeah. Okay.
And do you remember that Lindy Lee lady?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the lady who was the fundraiser for the Democratic Party.
Yes.
She was talking about like when she started coming out and started saying like, yeah, they totally just wasted over $1 billion.
Yeah.
She said like all the other people on the left just came at her. Some people with like really saying really awful racist shit.
Oh yeah.
Like you should be deported. You should be in a fucking rice field in China. I'm like, God damn, you racist assholes.
Oh, you want to see racism? I mean, real good. I mean, primo racism. Go look at a black conservative's feed and look at the response from liberals. That is some top tier racism. Yeah. Racism that I would look at and be like, okay, that feels real. Like I'm not overly sensitive. Donnie can vouch for this. It's cool. I don't like racists at all, which is why I don't like a lot of liberals. But that being said, I am shocked. I'm shocked by some of the things I'm seeing. And I'm like, look, I'm not overly sensitive. I can let a joke slide. But this is genuine vitriol.
Yeah.
That you will read. There is no one. And again, we are talking about people who literally have as one of their great heroes, Margaret Sanger, whose express purpose in creating the company we now call Planned Parenthood, the entire reason she started it was to get rid of poor whites and blacks and Mexicans. Everyone she considered genetically unfit. Her express purpose in creating that organization was to get rid of black people. And she's beloved by liberals. Hillary Clinton, that child eater, I'm certain she drinks the blood of children. And I wish, I genuinely wish I was kidding. I really do. But if you've seen what they did in Haiti, you'd share my opinion. She said that Margaret Sanger was her hero and the person she looked up to. There is a reason why all of these people talking about early turn of the century progressives. The early turn of the second progressives are the ones who brought us Jim Crow. They're the ones who brought the U.S. military was not segregated until the progressives. We are talking about people who forcibly sterilized 50,000 Americans because they were worried that they were genetically impure or genetically defective. Planned Parenthood exists because Margaret Sanger, who was a huge friend of the KKK, which was the military arm of the Democrat Party, and she was a big fan of theirs, was to get rid of black people. There's a reason why Planned Parenthood exists. The vast majority of their offices are in black neighborhoods to this day. They may be saying, oh, you're just being a Republican. I'm not saying the Republicans are your friends at all.
Right.
That is where the fight is. We've said that a bunch of times. That is where the fight is, though. That's where there's at least somebody. Because again, I called out neocons 30 minutes ago. I've told you, neocons are the same thing. It is a statist ideology. But rest assured, the whole woke DEI stuff, it is there to give terrible people protection. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I want to go into this one more time and go into more depth. There's usually 3 or 4 levels of belief of any system, not just the woke DEI, any system. You have the NPCs who they don't actually understand what they're doing. They just do what they're told.
Yeah.
Right. They're just, okay, whatever. They don't think about it. Like, now, they usually are attracted to an ideology for one reason or another. But it's like the difference between, as far as they're concerned, it's the difference between Coke and Pepsi, right? It's just the flavor that they like.
They're the NPCs.
So they're the NPCs.
They're the extras.
Exactly. They don't think about whether or not it actually conflicts with reality. They just do what they're told. The second level are true believers. They are willing to do whatever it takes to force an ideology out. They will fight and they will defend the ideology. And the more cult-like an ideology is, the more rabid these people are. There is a reason why you don't see a whole lot of Christians blowing stuff up. Throughout history, that's not really a thing that's happened. Are there people who small minority? Yes, there's always somebody some insane person who will find an ideology for anything. But we're talking about, there's that second class of people who are genuine. They genuinely believe what they're doing. These are people who will be who will be martyred. But if it's the more cult-like the ideology,
not to say though that Christianity nor the church has been able to avoid corruption themselves.
Oh no, of course not. Yeah.
To be fair,
To be fair, again, the Catholic Church, that's a whole other conversation.
Well, even Protestant church.
Yeah, even Protestants. Oh, trust me. Trust me. We're going to do at some point an episode on the progressive church and even the evangelical. And I'm going to, and trust me, I'll trash the evangelical church real hard on that one too. But my point is, the more conflicting an ideology is with reality, means the more cult-like a true believer mentality has to have.
Like flat earthers.
Like flat earthers, straight up. You have to, which is why rabid behavior. But the third level of any ideology are usually the people in charge, and they tend to not actually believe it.
They just benefit from it.
They benefit from it, and they don't believe it at all. And a lot of these people understand that they are manipulating people. Again, as we said, do you think Gavin Newsom believes any of this?
He doesn't believe that shit, man.
None of them.
Did you see the way he was trying to deflect when those reporters were coming at him about why were the reservoirs empty? He's like, yeah, I want to know too, and I'm going to invest.
Yeah.
I mean, this motherfucker, all he cares about is saving his own skin.
Yes,
literally, that's all he cares about.
And because it is the most craven who rise to the highest levels. That's just by and large. If you've got a room full of congressmen, you throw a stone, I guarantee you have, more often than not, you're going to hit somebody who's a real piece of shit. And that's the point.
In that regard, I guess he was a little bit better than Nero, because Nero was kind of, to save his skin, he was killing a whole bunch of Christians.
Yeah, well, hold on. Well, here's the thing, though. Gavin Newsom isn't done yet, so we'll wait. Yeah. We'll wait and see. But yes, at least as
Gavin Newsom at least has 1 point over Nero in that regard.
Yeah. In that regard, he hasn't blamed it on Christianity and then murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So there's that one.
Still less than 1,000, though.
Yeah, still less than 1,000. So, what is the point of all of this? I start at the beginning. California, what's happening here is a warning to the rest of us. This is is this Sodom and Gamorrah? not the way you think. This wasn't God saying,
Yeah.
you're done. This is God saying, I'm going to pull my hand back and let you see what happens when I'm not protecting you from your own stupidity. And
We also have
that's
to
a
be
warning to the
careful.
rest of us.
We also have to be careful, though. The other way to separate from Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah very much implies that the place deserved it because all the people inhabiting it were straight
Yes.
up evil. We don't want to imply that like LA, like everyone is evil
Yeah,
or
absolutely
degenerates in
not.
LA, because that's not the case. I mean, those were a lot of good homes belonging to some good people and some good families who
Yeah.
had some shit happen to them that they did not deserve.
Yeah.
Because
No.
that kind of stuff could have happened to
Anyone.
anybody.
Yeah.
But the fact that it happened there in those neighborhoods, there's something very, I want to say, poignant about it. Like it was almost
Yes.
as if it was like making a statement.
God, there's a concept of in the prophetic world of God choosing events on specific dates and times or in very narrow windows. And for example, there's a lot of these times where the people said, hey, these fires destroyed everything, but there's a cross still here untouched, right? Remember when I
Yeah.
said that part of the reason I'm like, no, this is not a Sodom and Gomorrah exactly is because there wasn't a prophet who came out and said, hey, this is all going to burn here and now, right? That didn't happen. But there are prophetic events we're supposed to look at them and say, hey, hold up. We were warned. This is what's going on. And so inherent in that is the option to repent. And repent only means turn away, turn around. Look, would I like it if everyone became a Christian? Of course, because that is the ultimate goal. But God is sending us a message saying, hey, this stuff that you're playing with here is fire. All of this is fire, and you will get burned with it. And you're not going to like how this plays out, because it's probably going to be a lot more than just LA and the surrounding areas next time. It's going to be all of us.
Can I say something about Christianity as a non-Christian?
Yeah.
Okay, because I am not a Christian, right?
No.
I don't want to say I identify as a Buddhist, but let's just say I lean more in that direction.
You're diet Buddhist.
Sometimes I like to call myself a Christian Buddhist hybrid, because even though I lean more towards Buddhist, I don't think anything in the Bible is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So as a non-Christian, as someone on the outside looking in, one thing I can say about the Bible and Christianity, I'm just like, man, the Bible's really good at prophecies, isn't it? Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, Bible. You know, like as a non-Christian, I'm seeing stuff going on in the world, and I'm like, God damn, that's some Revelation shit right there.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, Revelations was correct. Damn, there's gonna be some bullshit happening.
Yeah. And that again, I wonder why they got the prophecies so right. Okay, whatever. We'll keep moving on.
Yeah, as a non-Christian, I can admit, damn, Bible's kind of on point with some of them prophecies, man. Bible don't joke around with that shit.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But you know what I think actually ended up being a bit of a prophecy for us personally, between the two of us, and we shall not share. You did a show a while back on a really a terrible event in Korea.
My only serious show, 100% serious show. Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, it was fuck. Oh yeah, it was about Korea's Hillary, right?
Yeah.
When the president got locked up because of the disaster.
Yeah, he'll put a link in
it. No, I won't. I'm
okay. Yeah,
too
you're
lazy
too lazy for that.
No, just fucking search you people. Just look it up. Anyway, so back in 2014, and I was in Korea when this happened. It was the worst maritime disaster in our modern country's history, because the Sewol ferry, which went from Korea, well, the mainland of South Korea, to Jeju Island, on its way sank, killing 300 and how many people was it? It was ultimately like 304 people out of like 400 something. Shit sank, and like the majority of them were kids, because it was like a whole bunch of like classes out on school field trips. 300, like it was like 250 kids, like middle school kids, all died. It was one of the worst tragedies, and fuck, man, that was a crazy ass time, because it turned out It didn't have to sink at all. It was completely man-made. That ship was run by this really corrupt shipping company that just bribed their way out of following any regulations at all. And because everything was so overweight and just so poorly like done in terms of the cargo and the, they went way over the weight limit, way over like all the construction regulations. It was very top heavy. You know why? Because the third floor or the third story of the cabin area was a personal museum to the motherfucking CEO of that company, which made it way more top heavy, which would cause it to tip over when it tried to turn, killing 250 kids. And I was there. I was in Korea. I remember the day it happened when people found out about the news. I was teaching a class. I was actually teaching a bunch of Korean power, like they worked for the Korean power company.
Yeah.
They worked in nuclear power plants, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teaching them, and we found out about the news, and then it came out about all the ways that all the rules were broken. And I remember one of the executives there who I was teaching, he just kind of shook his head. He was like, God damn it. This is still a third world country, isn't it? This is still a third world country. What he meant was like South Korea, they can act like they're so modern and so high tech and so progressed, but there was still a lot of bullshit corruption going on. There was still a lot of this shit happening that really didn't need to happen.
Yeah. And that the question he asked you, and honestly, that episode has stuck with me for. I think that's probably from its impact. That episode's impacted me a lot.
It's not my best episode though. Church of Dogman was my best.
Yeah,
episode.
Church of Bro. I mean, that goes without saying, but it stuck with me because, and I've really honestly that question, that story you tell about him asking that question has been stuck in my head because I look at what's happening in California and I'm like, that's the same thing. This is the complete bullshit that's going on in California right now is, like I said, this is not a natural disaster. This is man-made because there's no reason for it to have happened. Yeah. It's not one bad decision it's not one mistake. It's decades of bad planning, decades of bad mistakes, decades of kowtowing to environmentalists who don't actually know what they're talking about, who don't actually believe what they're peddling, who are just peddling because they were hired by some Chinese firm or something. All of these failures, all the way down, that's third world stuff. I've got friends in Africa, and I hear the stories they tell me. This is the kind of stuff that they tell me. There was this thing, but there was this fire, but the fire department didn't show up because there was no gas in what actually most of them don't even have that, but plenty of stories, right? Where you listen to it and you're like, how is that something that happens? Because it's a third world country. We are very, very close. This is a warning. America is on the verge of becoming a third world country because of this kind of stuff. And it's not the people. The people are a problem, of course. People are policy. Believe that. But it's far more than that. It's an ideology. Again, the woke stuff, that's just the surface level agitprop. It's just nothing more than Marxist agitprop. That's all it's designed to be. But the ideologies beneath it, which are socialist and communist in nature, they are evil. They are satanic, which is why there's such a big push towards so much satanic imagery in our art, in our songs. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Why is there such a very vicious attack towards traditional Western culture values in Christianity? Because it is an anti-Christian belief system. Christianity, theism in general, simply states that there is something higher than us. Right? On the base level, just theism in general says there is a God and we are responsible to him. True leftist ideology, which includes neocons, believe only in the power of the state. They are not godless in the sense that they don't have a God. They simply reject the true God or any divine being.
Oh, you mean like communist China?
like Communist China,
Yeah.
like Soviet Russia, like Cuba,
Yeah.
like North Korea, like Venezuela. It is the state is God. That's the ideology. And the DEI stuff, all this is simply the agitprop used as a weapon against us, because China does want to come for us, but they know that we're too powerful. We have to be destroyed from within. Abraham Lincoln even said it. No one can invade us. We have to be destroyed from within. And liberals like Cloward and Piven, they postulated in the 60s to destroy America. It's literally called the Cloward and Piven strategy. It is to overwhelm the system so that it collapses and you can rebuild from there. That was their entire theory, was to destroy the United States. You have to overwhelm,
Yeah.
and these
Destroy
were
it from the
American
inside.
radicals. You have to destroy,
Because
but you destroy it by collapsing the system, which is where we are.
Which is funny to me when people talk about being all paranoid about like
Mhm.
China or Russia attacking America militarily. Yeah, right. That ain't gonna happen. We
Not
ain't
for a
getting
while.
invaded. The only thing that could have that has a chance of invading us is either aliens or Godzilla. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm worried about
There ain't no
Godzilla.
country.
No. So China theoretically could. The problem is they have,
Mm-mm.
in order for this to happen, there has to be, again, for us to be invaded,
They ain't got a fucking prayer.
they got to
I
destroy
disagree with
so
that.
much before
They
they
ain't
get
got a
here.
fucking
That's the
prayer.
problem. No, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Like, yeah, but if they would have to degrade our economy and our military and social cohesion to the point that we're already in a civil war, and essentially they're showing up to help and aid one side that's already been bought.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see a hypothetical situation, not a real
Mhm.
situation, but as a thought experiment. I would like to see the Chinese military invade America, but then the US military just doesn't do anything and just lets the citizens fight. I bet we still win.
Oh, we'd still win.
I
Let's-
bet we still win.
Yeah, everyone.
Their soldiers are so poorly trained,
Oh
poorly
yeah,
equipped.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well,
we'd
we're
still
seeing
win.
in North
Yeah.
Korea, the North Korean soldiers that are going to Ukraine,
They're getting annihilated.
it's hilarious.
It's hilariously bad.
It's like something out of a
Yeah.
comedy. It really is. And again,
Yeah.
China wouldn't be much better. We wouldn't need our military to fight off the Chinese. But again, China would never invade. What they would do is they would send forces to aid in a civil war. That's what they would do. And of course, they would simply side with the group that they had
Yeah.
already bought out anyway, like
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom. This isn't the video games, the movie, the politics, it's all the same thing. These are all symptoms of the same thing. And it's the same thing with TikTok. TikTok is spyware and propaganda. It's not even, it's worse than propaganda. It is literally MK Ultra technology. All of this stuff is. All this, again, I've said this for years. This thing is what MK Ultra turned into. They know how to make you do things you don't even begin to know with with algorithms. This is the events of California were essentially man-made. I'm not saying that if you did everything right, there wouldn't be a fire.
Yeah, this is different from Sodom and Gomorrah. This
Yeah.
is completely different because, okay, let me do a retelling of Sodom and Gomorrah, but if Sodom and Gomorrah were LA, okay?
Okay.
So Lot and his wife, those are the people who go to Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Well, his whole family, but yeah.
Yeah, so Lot and his whole family, he shows up at Sodom and Gomorrah, but it's actually LA. And he tries to establish himself, move his family in. But about 3 days later, he leaves. And then someone asks him, "Hey Lot, why are you leaving?" And he's like, "That place? Have you seen the rent on that place? Fuck that place." And he's leaving. Right? It's not like Sodom and Gomorrah where the neighbors show up and they're just like, "Oh, hey, I hear you got angels in there. Can we fuck them?"
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it ain't like that. It's just like, Lot shows up and he's like, everything is like $1 bajillion.
And
I
it's
have
bad.
to pay to just put my bags down.
Yeah. And
What
poorly
is this place?
yeah,
This
and
place
poorly
doesn't
run.
make sense.
Yeah.
What are all these weird rules and this red tape? What? No, I'm leaving. Fuck this place, right?
Yeah.
But then in this story of Sodom and Gomorrah, a prophet shows up to the lands and goes to the king and all the people and say, "Hey guys, this place is going to burn soon. You might want to do something about that." And then all the people gasp, "Oh, is it going to burn?" And then the king says, "No, guys, don't worry about it. I got a handle. It's all good. Just go back to what you're doing." And they're like, "Okay." And then the next year, the prophet shows up again. "Hey guys, place is going to burn. King says the same thing. No, guys, I got it handled, right? Happens a few more times. Finally, it burns. And then the king says, no, it was the other guy's fault.
Yeah, it's Lot's
Give me
fault.
money. I'll fix it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you'd have to change it. Like I said, this is a
It's a
man-made,
completely different story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
completely different. And it's because this is a man-made event, but it is a prophetic warning that we could all look like this.
Mhm.
And here's the problem: when that happens, that will be God, because it's not it. So, as I've mentioned before, I am bringing back one of the channels, but I'm going to rename it. I was going to go with none other. I was going to just relaunch the None Other Bible Study, but I think I'm going to do it. I want to change it up a little bit. Anyway, politics is spiritual warfare. I'll explain more in that episode, but it is. God has ordered us to bring justice and order and mercy to the world. We are supposed to be our brother's keepers. That is seriously the message of the Bible. Outside of how God wants to live with us and come to us. Because the Bible is about God coming back, is coming to us, not us going to him. But our actions on earth, our representation of him matters. Again, there are plenty of innocent people whose lives have been destroyed by this fire. Nothing but sympathy for those people. And by the way, there are some people I would probably very vehemently disagree with. I don't like that they've lost everything. Just as a human being, you can look at this and say, "This is
you can disagree with their politics, but these are people who are lied to. You can't hate them for that.
Yeah, but this was a man-made problem, and this was a problem ultimately that was voted for. This is the end result of those decisions.
It's just sad that so many homes and so many like historic buildings and like culturally significant. I mean, these are iconic neighborhoods, man. Iconic.
Yeah,
to our culture.
And they're gone.
They're just gone.
Gone.
Like history and culture and like lineage and just legacy just fucking gone.
And it was all of it's avoidable. This wasn't some massive earthquake that was unforeseen. This wasn't a hurricane you couldn't do anything about. This is something people have been warning California about for decades.
It is literally the most beautiful. It was literally the most beautiful spot in all of the continental United States.
Yeah,
the fucking crown jewel.
My animosity towards Californians, again, not all Californians, but sort of the gross California is as a Texan. I love Texas. I don't want to live anywhere else. That having been said, I will happily admit Texas is a hard place to live. It really is. Mm-hmm. This is not an easy place to live. I will freely admit that. But I look at California and I see some of the most productive farmland on the planet. I see some of the most beautiful scenery ever. I see resources beyond any other location in this country. And then I've seen what's happened to it. That's a sin. It's an absolute sin what's happened to California. And no one is to blame but the Californians because they voted for this stuff. 100%. You went. Now, again, I'm not saying you weren't lied to, but you went along with the lie. This is your warning to change. I know you've asked and other people have asked, do you think California turns red after this? I don't think so. I'd like for this to be a big wake-up call, because here's the thing. At this point, red just means a Democrat from 30 years ago. Trump is... People talk about how Trump is basically Bill Clinton.
Actually, I think it would take the right type of red. You would need like a real charismatic candidate. I think it could be flipped red. I'm not saying it will flip red.
Because it used to be. It actually used to be a Republican location. And in fact, a lot of California is.
If you get like a Ronald Reagan in his prime, motherfucker, maybe. I think it could be done.
But my broader point here is, I would like to, again, red only meaning a Democrat from 30 years ago at best. Like, that's it. just someone who at least acknowledges reality, because the agitprop, the neo-Marxist agitprop that everyone's buying into in California right now is what led to this. If they reject it, again, I don't need them to agree with me on everything, but I would like for them to rebuild California. I want California to be beautiful. I want California to be what it was 40 years ago, when it was prosperous and clean and wasn't burning the F down.
Yeah. Well, here's where I think the scenario where California stays blue.
Mm-hmm.
This is not okay. This is me speaking like if I were to be like a Democratic strategist, like what would be best for because at the end of the day, I don't want the Democratic Party to go extinct, because if they go extinct, then it becomes a one party system.
Yeah.
And one party systems tend to not work. Okay.
Yeah.
I want
there
the
needs
Democratic
to be
Party
push and pull.
I just want what needs to happen is the people in the center left, the center Democrats, and I'm not talking about these fucking neocons, right? I'm talking about like people who are more center left, like old school Democrats. They need to start a movement to push out those fucking woke retards.
What I see happening is, again, I don't know about California specifically. I think what we're going to see is, honestly, there's something we need to address in this conversation. The problem is people talk about left and right like it's exclusively a straight line, and it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not what this is. Because again, neocons, people would say, are on the right, but people on the right would say no, they're clearly on the left. And the reason for that is, in Europe, you have the right and left are both statists. It's more about flavor of statism, right? So in many cases, it's basically a circle. Like the middle may be here, but there's also a middle up here. This is sort of where and that sort of holds them on this side. But when they go too far in either direction, they come back to this totalitarian statist that, again, goes back to the difference between Coke and Pepsi. It's basically the same thing. The United States does have a more linear spectrum, but what it is between statism and anarchy. And the problem is statism comes in a lot of flavors, right?
Well, neocons, like I see them more as the imperialists, the expansionists, the more like they want to start wars and build up the military-industrial complex.
Well, the left wants that too. That's
what I'm saying. The neocons isn't specifically right or left. They have it's kind of both sides.
So
the partyless, actually. That's how I see it.
Well, so 20 years ago, the old line used to be a neocon is a liberal who's been mugged by reality. And I think it's a fairly safe assumption. Or
what about the conservative perspective for neocons then?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is what a neocon is. Like they're on the right only in that they tend to be more, how do I say this? They are more interested in a free market, and they are more interested in a stronger military action. The thing is, the left is very happy to start as many wars as possible, because again, they don't actually believe it.
That is true. Yeah.
Right. They want police actions, but they want again, because they don't understand how it works. They want a weak military that they send everywhere, whereas the neocons want a strong military that they send everywhere. It's the same thing.
I mean, like liberal neocons is basically they just want to like sell all our weapons out. Like, oh, there's another war going on there. Hey, do you want to buy our shit?
Yeah, which is all it is. Again, it's a liberal who's been mugged by reality, so there's a little bit more concern for actual safety on the neocon line. But they're both statists. That's the thing. They're both on the statist end of this, whereas conservatives are more towards the anarchy. The problem is libertarians go much further down that line into anarchy. But it's in many ways, really honestly, conservatives are actually the moderates of the two at the end of the spectrum. The problem is when most people talk about the spectrum, they're actually talking about the statist circle and the different flavors of it. We're only now breaking free from that version into something that's actually more of a, hey, we can go over here. I genuinely think what will happen over the next 10 to 15 years ish is the Democrats will probably go extinct in the way the Whigs did, but what will happen is the populist right is including a lot of liberals, and so we're going to see we'll see two new parties evolve. And really, I think the Republican Party, it may become the home of the liberals, and then you'll have a newer conservative party pop up, possibly. But the problem is we're going through, again, it's a sloppy analogy, but the Bolshevik Revolution, but the Bolsheviks are getting more pushback than they did in Russia. That's really where we are. Again, there's a huge connection between all this and China, again, as we've already discussed, because this is all neo-Marxist agitprop anyway. But there's more pushback. We don't have to go the way of Russia or China. We can do better. We can make systems that don't burn down. Because the problem is, all of this was avoidable. All of it absolutely was avoidable. This wasn't an unforeseen thing. This was foreseen a number of times by a number of people for decades. But it's a warning sign that if we don't fix the rest of this country, we're all going to end up like LA.
Hey, Jason, can I show you this new woke ass video game that's about to come out? And when it comes out, like everyone is already predicting it's going to die a fucking death, like Concord.
Yes, please.
It's so fucking woke. And Concord had just failed when they released the trailer, and the whole comment section is like Concord 2.0. Here it comes. And they're both released by Sony.
Of course.
Of course. Are you ready for this?
My loins are girded, sir.
Okay, so it's a multiplayer shooter, right?
Okay.
It's called Fair Games, but instead of an S, it's a money sign.
Of course. Yeah, because...
And here's the premise. Just behold. Give me your reaction, or give me your thoughts.
I'm ready. PlayStation Studios. Not actual gameplay, because
you'll see what the premise is. Believe me.
Oh, I'm waiting for it.
This game is so fucking woke. Oh my god.
We're logging in. Oh, it's a smiley face.
Seems like everyone does these days.
Rich.
It's simple.
New target.
Too much money and too much power is held by just a few people. And it's only getting worse. So, we decided to do something about it.
Okay.
Let's go.
Oh yeah. Black chicks and gay dudes.
Yep.
I'm something like you. My drink and drive too. Work 9 to 5s when I was in high school. These shoes here don't come out till June. This my pick. I'll crop you. Married to the game. Said my I do's. Got a window seat like Erica Badu.
So it's a heist game.
It's like, yeah, a heist game. But you're trying to outdo other heist teams.
If you ain't got it, then you can't flaunt it. Pull up Lamborghini and on it.
Wow.
Take it till you make it.
So yeah, straight like that was
It's all about like eat the rich.
Yeah.
What do you think,
straight up comedy. Yeah. And of course, yeah. It's
you see it, right? You see that
oh,
shit?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's they weren't even it was everything but the sickle and hammer.
Yeah.
And again, the Nazi swastika is universally evil, and it is universally evil. However, people don't have the same reaction to the sickle and hammer, and under the sickle and hammer, far more people have died. Straight up, because at least the bulk of people whose deaths you contribute to the Nazis, the 60 million, that's from a war that spanned the entire globe. Under socialism and communism, which is basically the same thing, the low end of this is 80 million. Really, it's probably closer to 120 million, and it doesn't count abortions. If you throw abortions in there, you're over 1 billion. So yeah. Again, that's how this is going. And if we don't stop this, if we don't make a change and say, look, there's a better way of doing this, we need to actually have a real conversation about this. This stuff's destructive, and this is what's toxic. If we don't fight this off, we're going to turn into LA, the whole country. And that is something that I would like to avoid.
Can I show you now, Jason, something different?
Sure.
I want to show you the opposite video game.
Okay.
I want to tell you about this game. Are you familiar with the Kingdom Come series?
Yes. The comic book?
No, the video game series.
Oh, the video game series. No, I'm not. Sorry.
Kingdom Come. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They call themselves the Based video game studio. Like the CEO comes out, like, whenever they interview him about video game design and his philosophy on video games, he's always like, rule number 1, none of that woke shit.
Okay.
All right. So this studio, they mean business. They're not about that woke bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom Come series, it's like a GTA style RPG.
Okay.
But it's more RPG heavy. But here's the world. Ready?
I'm ready.
Medieval Europe.
Okay.
That's it. No fucking monsters. No fucking magical mystical shit. It literally is medieval Europe, just mundane, just humans. That's it.
Okay.
And
I'm interested.
Kingdom Come 2 is coming out, and guess what? It takes place in Europe. Guess what race everyone is?
Okay. Hit me up.
Okay.
Because Europe is kind of a big place.
But in that time, in that place,
yeah.
I'm just saying there weren't too many like fucking,
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. Okay, that's fair. That's exactly how that would have happened too. Oh, cool! They have the hand cannons.
They made it all accurate. That's what's awesome about this. Now, this is a video game that I got a straight up boner for. I'm ready for this to come out, man. I'm fucking ready for this. See, this is art when you remove the woke bullshit.
I always dreamt of leaving this place.
This is like gameplay.
Becoming
Like you're
more than
actually
a
like
peasant.
living in medieval Europe, like an accurate representation of it.
You know the trouble with an adventurous life? It can end before it gets started.
When they say the combat's like really hard, it's like really difficult.
Congratulations, Sir Knight. You finally become a man. Wake up. Pull yourself together, Henry.
Okay. You know what?
Fuck yeah, right?
Yeah. This is giving me Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima. That was the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me vibes of that.
And anything on a platter
Yo, this game is looking hype, man.
to men like you and me.
You still have a long way to go till your work is done.
You can pet the dogs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's first person mode, like Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah, man. Oh god damn it, Jason McLean. God damn it, I want that game.
You know what?
Shit.
It looks like an actually good and entertaining game.
If
And
you
here's
had
the
time
thing.
to play games, wouldn't you play that game?
I'd play that game.
If you had
You
time.
know what game I also would have played because it looks really cool, and I saw a couple friends of mine were loving it. The Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh
That
yeah,
was-
I played the shit out of that game.
Yeah. And again, it's, you know what? Everyone's Japanese. Why? Because it's in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, not hard. Not hard.
And you know who the
Assassin's
enemies
Creed.
are? You know who the enemies are?
Hmm.
The Mongols.
Oh, yeah, in Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, I did know that.
And
I thought you were
guess
talking about
what?
this game.
They're all actually Mongolian.
Yeah, they're
they're
Mongolians.
like in the camps when you sneak up on their camps,
Yeah.
they're actually doing actual Mongolian throat singing. They like
Yeah, I heard
actually
that.
recorded like real singers and stuff. And
I
they're
saw
actually
that. And
speaking
they
Mongolian.
looked, you know, and again,
Yeah.
they looked Mongolian because it's a very different
Yeah.
facial features. So
And
yeah,
they got
I
like
was,
yurts and shit.
yeah,
And you gotta sneak up
I
on them
loved
and
it.
just kill the shit out of them with your ninja powers.
Yeah.
And your samurai skills.
Yeah, again, Assassin's
Let me ask you a
Creed,
question, real quick
Japanese
question,
people live in
okay?
Japan.
Hypothetically speaking, if you had fuck you time where you could just sit around and play video games, what would be the first video game you would play?
Oh, I would bust out. I would absolutely bust out Rogue Squadron on Xbox.
Really?
Oh yeah, I love flying games.
Really?
That was the best game ever.
That wasn't the answer I was expecting.
Sorry, Galaga is my favorite video game of all time, and then Rogue Squadron. Don't get me wrong. I do want to play Breath of the Wild. That's how behind I am in all this. Like, we have Breath of the Wild. I have a Switch, but I can't play it. I just don't have time to play it. I would probably bust out some Breath of the Wild, but my favorite, if I had that kind of time, I would probably get an emulator and then play Rogue Squadron, because that was awesome.
If you are ever, knock on wood, bedridden sick, then you could probably play Breath of the Wild. Actually, no, you'd probably wind up still drawing anyway.
I would.
Yeah.
If I'm sick enough to not be drawing, I'm not playing video games. Yeah, that's just how I roll. Sorry. Sorry. That's life of the McLean.
Yeah. It's the problem with being an adult, man. You gotta spend a lot of your time on some bullshit.
Yep. That's how we roll. That's how we roll, unfortunately, as adults. So
Speaking of rolling, we've been going on almost an hour and 40 minutes. Hey, before we go, can I show you a quick meme that I downloaded?
Please do.
We were talking about Hillary Clinton, and it made me remember this old gem of a meme. I think you may have seen this. I think you may have not. Tell me if you have or not. Ready?
I'm prepared.
Put it away, Hillary. Dinner's 7. And the baby's like, shit.
Uh-huh.
This is a pretty good one, right?
It is a good one. That is a good one. Like I said, I wish I was only half kidding about my earlier statement. I don't know that I am.
Straight up, okay? Straight up. Yes or no. Ready?
I'm prepared.
Do you think this person is in actuality a Satanist? Yes or no?
Yes, but probably not for the reason most people think. Like, I don't think she's necessarily worshiping at the altar of Moloch per se. Like, I don't think she's sitting down and, cutting open kittens or anything in front of the pentagram. I do think she's a Satanist in the oldest sense of the word, which is that she's anti-God. She serves herself more than anything else, and she's absolutely CIA. That's not not an agent. She's an asset. She always has been, which is why she got why her and Bill.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about that a lot. But yes, is she a Satanist in the oldest sense of the word, meaning someone who's in rebellion to God and serves themselves? Yes, 100%.
Let me ask you this question:
Would I be surprised if we find out that there's a black cloak and some sharp knives and dead goats somewhere? Not in the least. But that's not my default for her. I think she's just an old school God hater.
Do you think she knows about the aliens?
I think so. Funny story. I don't. Meaning, I don't think she knows anything more than necessarily anyone else. But I think
No, you know what I think?
What do you think?
I think they told the aliens about her, and the aliens were like, "Nah, we don't want anything to do with her."
That's probably fair. I think that's Well, she is a highly advanced, overly evolved velociraptor in a human suit. So,
Dragonoids, we call them.
Dragonoids, yeah.
All right. Anyway, I think we should. We've been going long enough, right? Any final thoughts or final words before we go, or should I just press the button?
We don't have to go down. We don't have to go down.
Mm.
Our destruction is our choice. As I have said many, many times on this channel and on other channels, Trump is not a victory. He's a beachhead. Every person on this channel matters. You say, I don't mean anything. Go get involved in your local politics, because I guarantee you will matter. This doesn't have to go this way. It's voting. Please, at least vote, right? But get involved and find out who's actually who. Mm-hmm. We have, like I said, we got problems here in Texas we got to fix, because we got to fix them fast. We got Dade feeling out just to get another rhino in. So I'm as our I just forgot the phrase.
But nothing catastrophic like these LA fires, right?
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Nothing like that. But the problem is we could be better.
Hmm.
And even if you think your place is more or less, still get involved, because you genuinely matter. Here's the thing. Corruption starts at the top and runs all the way down. I guarantee your local government is paying it's corrupt. I guarantee you there is some corruption to be fixed, and you can fix it. We are not powerless. We are powerful. And then, of course, repent and believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. Those are my two messages.
Let me offer some non-Christian words now.
All right. Ready.
So, you heard me tell this story before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet.
Yeah.
Do with him as you will, right? I'm sure you got thoughts on him. I've got thoughts on him. Everyone's got thoughts on him, right? You might think it's all a crock of shit. But I read a lot of those readings because I was curious. I wanted to know what his point of view was. Not just the predictions or the things about like supernatural woo stuff, but just like answers to like simple questions. And one of my favorite quotes or favorite lines that he gives is that during one of the readings, when people are asking him to give a prediction of like future events, like later in the 20th century, the whatever being that was being channeled by Edgar Cayce basically said, listen, none of what I say about the future is 100% set in stone. People and humanity as a whole still have the ability to choose differently. All I'm offering is the future if humanity chooses to stay on this path. But it could change.
Yep.
And
that's the point of Revelation. Revelation even says if they would repent, he'd stop all of it immediately. Mm-hmm. So we have a choice. And we've got a choice, people. Let's make it a good one.
Yeah. And also the reason why I believe Edgar Cayce was because like a lot of the reading, like all the readings was very pro Jesus, and was basically the whole point of everything he said was like basically like what the Bible says is like, yeah, Jesus is the man.
There you go.
I mean, if it was a demon, I can't imagine a demon being like, yo, everything that guy Jesus said, 100% true.
You'd be surprised. But yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, on that note, push the button.
Although he was, according to Edgar Cayce, the reincarnation of an Atlantean king.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go.
There we go. There, yeah.
Yeah.